Hello everyone, it's Friday night and it is Weekender time once again. And on this week's show, jam-packed with gaming goodness, we take a look at some Ace miniatures in the world of 3D printing and even explore some Italian reinforcements for the Gentleman's War. Speaking of which, if you want to be in with a chance to win a copy of the Bolt Action Gentleman's War starter set from store.ontabletop.com, then you want to be a subscriber to the channel, make a comment below, and if you can give us a like and share us about, that really helps out as well. Otherwise, sit back, relax, because your weekend starts here. Hello everyone and welcome to the Weekender. I am joined this week by Ben, Lloyd and Justin to take you through a whole host of stuff across the gaming industry. How's it going, guys? Keeping well?
Yeah,
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Rocking on, gents.
Having a lot of fun. Every day's a delight in the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
It's
new
all good.
adventures, new things happening.
Yeah.
No explosions, which is good.
Always good, always good. One of the new things that's been happening this week is I had a big long chat with some of the folks over at Privateer Press about Warmachine Mark IV.
Yeah. Has me excited.
So yeah, you and John both on tenterhooks waiting for it.
Well, I mean, it's the idea that everything's being slimmed down, streamlined, so all the little gaming speed bumps that used to be in the game seem to be just being like sanded off just a little bit.
It's fascinating. One of the things that blew me away was you don't often see a community going, there's too much choice in our game. Could you remove some of it? And the company going, yes, we can. It's unheard of.
I'm all up for that, though.
Yeah.
Speed of play is everything for me. If I'm going to go down and play a game, I don't want to be sitting there going, it's going to be 3 hours and we're going to get tired and there's going to be no result. I don't want that.
Trim the fat.
One of the
Trim
things
the
I
fat.
think you'll like the best, Lloyd, is you see whenever you come to the table and see your opponent's army,
Yeah.
you can do a tiny little bit of last-minute tailoring for your Warcaster, selecting spells from like a dashboard.
Well, I quite like tweaking it last minute. That sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, well, it's the idea of you're not building a list to deal with cavalry, and then your opponent turns up with no cavalry.
I wonder if that's going to be the same. I don't want to say tournament scene, but I'm going to say tournament scene because, like, you know, Privateer Press and their tournament scene's big thing.
Well,
Is
I
it
mean,
the same when
see-
you go to do the tournaments? Because that'd be
Yeah,
interesting.
because that's core rules.
Well, that is interesting then, just being able to do that slight tweak. Because you know the way you normally put in a list and that's it. It's set, it's cast.
Yeah.
And there can often be a lot of dead weight in there if needs be. But yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
fascinating stuff. Also, they're running a slow grow in the new year. So yeah, we'll be getting involved with that, hopefully.
Do
as
want,
well.
do want.
Yeah. But if you haven't already seen that, you can jump over to just click the little on tabletop bit here on YouTube where you're already watching this video, and then just like go back 3 days.
Yeah.
Oh, it's about
I'll
there.
put a link down below as well if you're lazy. So
Yeah.
there we go.
No,
Look,
make them
look for
work-
the
make
big
them
red
work
key
for
or
it.
warjack.
Click it and scroll, people. Apart from that, I've been playing around in studio with people from Corvus Belly, which you cannot know anything about until Monday. Actually, is the first little teaser.
There's a little bit of something coming.
Well, they have shown some photos of you
They
folks in
have.
the studio.
Oh,
so.
have they? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh my!
I don't pay attention to what Carlos is doing in the background. I often see him wandering around his phone, but they were all on their phone all the time. And I thought if I had friends, I'd be on my phone too. I don't,
but
so I didn't.
Here's the problem, Jerry. Your phone you can still touch type with.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's a lovely photo of you and Hoopoo sitting on the set, talking about something exciting. So
I mean, the first time I heard the name said, I thought I was like, "Hoot, what? You're a Pokemon?"
That's
There we go.
too young for me. But very similar, I think. Very similar.
Oh.
So
I was
yeah,
sitting thinking, I don't remember that character in Wurzel Gummidge.
there you go. That makes more sense. Now I'm back on my wavelength. That's a reference I understand. Cue Captain America meme here. Anyway, yeah, so keep an eye out for that. There'll be a ton of stuff coming next month, actually,
Yes.
from the guys. So
I do believe we will have a rather fabulous prize for that. So stay tuned.
spoilers.
It's Corvus
Spoilers.
Belly. There's always a fabulous prize.
There's always spoilers.
That's true. That's very true as well. Right. Shall we kick off with the show proper then?
Yes.
And we're going to be taking a look at a cute little indie of the week that I picked because I threatened Shay with it a little while ago. But it's also quite handy for the prize we're giving away this week, which is the Gentleman Wars starter set. So, and it's I'm going to go with Gydran.
Gydran.
Do we have any other takers on Gydran or Gydran? It is a little tiny company that do a variety of sci-fi, which is probably the biggest range. But they also have some fantasy and a little bit of World War II action as well.
Well, those look cool.
Yeah, well, they're space dwarves. So they're a company that do 3D prototyping and sculpting and casting as well for other people, which is always nice because some of the little indies like this, it means if you've found something, you can actually get it produced. Or I know occasionally people get things sculpted as sort of one-offs and then trying to get them produced afterwards is a bit of a pain in the backside. But they've had about 20 odd years tinkering away. And yeah, well, we'll just get stuck in, shall we? I'm going to start with fantasy because the fantasy is relatively small. So it's nice. It's a little teaser just to sort of get you in there. And we'll start with this Breaker because, you know, in every respect, he's probably a dwarf and therefore...
Everest Puffball. I am immediately entranced.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you would be. The Gorak Breaker, if that's not some sort of dwarf with a hammer and a kilt, then I don't know what it is. I'm just saying.
Or like a gnome? I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, maybe he raises Ram Cavalry and he's found someone trying to nick them and he's coming out going, "That's mine."
I think that's probably about right, actually. Yeah.
Could be. But I like these for one-offs, for characters or small skirmish games, that sort of thing. Mm. And I really like the style of it. I suppose the hairy feet is probably a hobbit.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
Although I've never checked a dwarf's feet, so I don't know. I know their palms can be hairy on occasion.
They don't shave anywhere.
It's quite interesting the style they've went for with this because some of the detailing is quite heavy, quite thick, like the beard strands or the hair strands. It's all very solid, like clean shape. So I'd be interested to see how some folks would paint that up. Yeah,
it's one of those ones where you can texture it up with the painting if you want to, adding brush strokes and the like, or if you can't be arsed, you just chuck a wash over it and hit it with a dry brush. Boosh.
Yeah.
More self-shaded.
It might be a little difficult to hide some of the tool marks though on it.
Mm.
Yeah, some leftovers.
No, I wouldn't think so. Yeah, they should be easy enough to.
Depends on how much prep work you're willing to do.
All the prep work all the time. That's what I'm willing to do.
I see Jerry's thinking.
It's never stopped me in the past. Furious Puffball. Love it.
19 model that's entirely different from anything I've ever really seen before. So
it's when a shroom man comes charging at you down a corridor and then puffs all over you. That's what you deal with.
But what is it? It's like a walking cauldron thing.
No, so it's a puffball mushroom, and whenever they release their spores, they puff. So if you think about it as
that's what's coming at the top.
Yeah, and you never want to inhale those spores because shroomage on the inside. It's never a good thing.
See, I would nearly paint it up as some form of either a fire or an ice elemental, maybe.
Yeah, you could do that.
There's no reason why you can't. They can't stop you. Not once you've got it in your house.
At the top, it's just like magic stuff. So you've blown his mind.
Mind blown. But yeah, foot on rock as well, specifically for you, Lloyd.
No, not for me. Warren's the big one with the fits on rocks.
You all look.
I'm into plinths or lack of plinths.
Oh, lack of plinths.
He's into lack of rocks.
Hopefully there'll be some plinths for you. I don't think there are any.
I don't want to be so bold as to say so, but I'm fairly sure that Beasts of War are the people that came up with the phrase "foot on rock syndrome." I think we did, but yeah, and I think people have just taken it now. So
run with it. It sounds about right. The Dankborn Troll as well.
I think that's amazing.
It's really good.
It's really cool.
Would you give it multiple eyes?
Yes.
Is that 8 eyes like a Spydro?
Yes.
Or do you think it's got no eyes because it lives in the dark and those are just some sort of unusually big warts and boils up on its head?
You could drill them and they could be like loss of nostrils.
No.
They get a little more body horror. I don't know. I would paint them as like tiny little black beady eyes with like
beady eyes,
black.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
It's a really different take on a troll, even regardless of whether those are eyes, nostrils, or
it reminds me of a range.
The armor as well.
It reminds me of a range that was made by Zenit, and it wasn't. It was the Zenit back in the day. They did Kensi. Well, they still do Kensi, don't they? But then there was the other one that was just like a little tiny game with like little warbands of strange, quirky fantasy characters, and one of the warbands is a little like that.
I know who you're talking about.
This is like back in the day of Relics, that Puppets game and stuff. So that's quite well back.
Everybody was doing them.
Yeah.
Stick brush hairs on them for whiskers.
Oh,
and then just give them one eye in the middle. Just
a big googly eye sticker.
Yeah, that's it.
Stick a googly eye on.
Make it look like old fisty glue man.
Yep.
There's no reference for you folks.
A little bit of Mantic Games history there.
Fisty glue man. Thank you very much.
Oh, I love the Minotaur.
Yeah, they have at some point swapped from traditional sculpting into CAD. And some of the older stuff is either being resculpted or sort of reinvigorated. So you can see, obviously, the previous things we've looked at are old style, hand sculpted, and then they've got into the CAD design subsequently.
Well, I think they are benefiting from a smoother finish.
Yeah, but you're also getting far crisper detail and cleaner lines with this.
I don't mind either. I'm kind of... I do really like that, though. I don't mind I don't mind the smoother skin and the cleaner lines. I like, they both look good. But
the previous one, would you prefer they scan it in rather than resculpt it?
No, I'm just quite content for them to continue producing whatever they have the mold for that dankboard trolling. I wouldn't run either. I don't need them to resculpt it in CAD. Thank you very much.
Forever.
Yeah. They may get around to it. They may not. It's one of those things. But it shows the sort of the evolution of the company as a whole as well.
Mm-hmm. He's got major nipples.
I didn't realize nipples were ranked.
Aren't they? Aren't those big nipples sticking through his?
Is that how they determine rank?
It's like
we're on major with nipples.
It's like we're watching an episode of Friends
with the naked guy.
Some people out there will know what that means.
I unfortunately do. That is creepy as all hell.
Well, it's a clown. They're supposed to be creepy.
Yeah,
that's what clowns are.
Yeah,
I would definitely cover his shoes in blood. I would have big bloody shoes.
And white with red polka dot shorts.
Yeah, yes.
I'm not so afraid of the cleaver. I'm more afraid of what he's going to do with that horn.
The horn, yeah.
The dude.
It's the only sound you hear at night when you're trapped in the building. As he gets closer, just the thumping of massive size 17 shoes and the occasional
honk.
I'm amazed no one has ever done a movie where you're just escaping from a labyrinth with a clown chasing you.
Oh, there's plenty of clown horror out there.
Oh, I know
so
there's
much
clown horror.
Yeah.
It scarred me as a child.
This character again reminds me of something that would fit nicely with the Dankborn troll. I think that'd be a really cool character to have as part of like that little collection of creatures that live in the caves or something. You can have
Not sure what's going on with it either. Is it a rabbit? Are those horns? What's going on behind the mask? It seems
I guess you could do whatever. I suppose.
Legs.
Some form of small magical elemental creature that's been raised up and thinks it's a hero, ready to go out adventuring.
Killer rabbit. But yeah, so that's the entirety of their fantasy.
It's level 2 of Squid Games. That's what it is.
Oh, it's got the triangle on the hat. Yeah.
I'm waiting for season 2 so bad. Want it right now. Gimme.
But yeah, if we shuffle away then from the fantasy and into the World War II, it's another very small set of miniatures. But obviously we're looking at Gentleman's War.
Is it all Italians?
No, and this is the reason why I threatened Shay with it a few weeks ago, because Shay's just started doing Russians. And there's also Russian bike squadrons.
Female Russian bike squadrons. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. Well,
everyone fights.
Russia was an equal opportunity employer in that respect.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, ahead of their time.
Yep.
All right, hold on a minute. These look a bit like they're predators riding around on these bikes.
Well, that's the Italians with the little dusty masks on.
Yeah. Now, does their gearbox go as fast in reverse?
I wouldn't imagine you would require that.
Yeah. We'll dispel some myths about the Italians in a little bit, but yeah.
Hold on a minute, you've just confused me. Does a motorbike have a reverse gear? I don't think it does it?
No,
that's what your feet are for.
Yeah. Put one down and spin it around.
Yeah. They're nice though. It's nice to have like additional, because I think Italian ranges suffer from mainly having like the core set of stuff, and then everyone kind of just picks Germans as the elite elements of your army, and you kind of do like a mixed force.
Yeah,
I think it's quite nice to see lots of additional Italian bits and pieces thrown into
having a.
I like this guy. He's going, whoa, watch me do no hands, whoa.
Look, man, no hands.
Forget that I basically have training wheels on.
Yeah, it's nice because you can have then that the sort of the cavalry or fast reconnaissance element for your Italians, and just have all the bikes and trucks, get them forward onto the day thereof. But yeah, so you can even have the your Italian bike squads coming forward there. You've got your motorbike and sidecar, so you just have a full squadron or mounted rifle platoon blitzing forward, and changes up how it plays. Obviously, it depends on the game you're playing as well, how they fit in. But I just like it. I like the fast cav element. I'm all about that. And then likewise with the Russians, they've got a nice set of both male and female dispatch and bike squads. So things like the support weapon mounted to the front of the sidecar, whereas this one just appears to be firing,
carrying it
off the hip styley. I imagine the recoil on that's a bit brutal.
That's how they change direction.
The gun. But that would work. Yeah.
No, the driver just hits the brakes whenever she fires. That's how physics works, right?
Yeah. I think that looks like a submachine gun.
Mm.
Yeah, just a really nice little set, and weird that it was sort of sandwiched between fantasy and sci-fi in here, which is actually how I found them. I discovered the motorbike Italians when I was looking for something else. I was like, I wonder what else they do. They do Russians. I wonder what else they do. Nothing else. Fantasy and sci-fi after that. Weird. This leads me to believe that the people who are responsible for this website have Italians and Russians and couldn't get motorbikes anywhere else.
Yeah, that was kind of my thing, and it feels like it's just like, well, can't find these, I'll make them. I wonder if anybody else wants these. Actually, they do.
I'm all for that. And also very good for, chasing the dispatch rider, attempting to wrest whatever orders are away from them. It's a great way to deal with Russians on motorbikes. Chase them.
That guy is definitely had to squeeze into that sidecar, I think. So,
the fat man.
Yeah. He's sort of thinking, why couldn't I ride the bike?
Whoever welded the machine gun on welded it like a foot too far back, so he's just like really leaning into that.
Yeah. I should call him McCabe, and he should be Jake. And there's a reference for the kids in the crowd. Anybody gets that one, you're doing well. Anyway, so that's the little set of bikes.
Would this kind of like motorized element of the Russian army been like an actual thing, as in like on a bigger scale than you would think, probably kind of thing?
I don't know how prevalent it was with the Russians. The Germans called them Kradschützen. And companies, and it was essentially the next step from the old mounted. So in World War I, you would have had mounted rifle. They would ride to where they needed to go, hop off their horses. 1 in 3 men would hold onto the horses, and the rest would deploy and fight. And this was exactly the same idea. It was about getting infantry forward, so they didn't fight from the bikes. But they would use them to get into possession.
And you don't need to leave a man to look after the bike, I suppose.
You don't need to leave a man to look after the bike. The bikes will
run away.
It will stay wherever you put it. But the sci-fi is the biggest thing now. Back in 2018, they were starting to work on a rule set that they'd taken around to some conventions called Breaching the Rift. And then the event happened. So it has been sort of on hiatus until then. So the idea is this would be for their own sci-fi game. And I think you can still sign up to playtest. However, they can obviously be used in anything else you want. And there's some stonkingly good bits and pieces in here. Especially when we start to hit the alien creatures and the robots later on. Robots. But look, Ben. Tidy
Space dwarves.
Space dwarves.
Oh,
Hey, it looks like he stole my beard.
I quite like that. It's like a half helm.
Yeah.
Type
like
of
a
thing.
mask style helm.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
So you just got the bottom of the face sticking out, being all creepy, and I suppose it looks a bit like RoboCop. Now I'm looking at it.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Somewhere there's a war being committed. Yeah, I really like the. I keep wanting to call them Hondurans, but they're not called that.
The thing that's quite nice about those as well is that they're legitimately squat, as in they look small.
Yes.
So they're not going to feel like they're dwarfing the human models on the tabletop, which is cool. So, yeah.
And they're nice little range, and like I say, relatively generic, so that they haven't been tied to their own plans for game so tightly that you wouldn't be able to just chuck them into Stargrave or 5 parsecs or whatever it happens to be that you want to run some stuff out in.
Those are little tiny dog people.
Good line of sight dodgers.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
They're all behind a wall.
I mean, 90% of the time they're always in cover.
Yeah. Wonder how the best way to do this is, because there's a lot to get through on the
bear.
Bear riders.
There's a lot to get through in the sci-fi, so we probably won't be able to get into it all. Although I will definitely show you the Bear Scout. Rawr. Dwarf on bear, even in space. Brings me back to my old Grenadier days.
What?
Grenadier used to have dwarven cavalry mounted on bears in fantasy.
Oh.
It was great. When other games went, dwarves don't have cavalry, Grenadier went, they do. And I'll tell you what, you're mounted on a bear and they'll have you, mate. They'll have you.
The heavy armor is quite nice.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. Chunky Evo armor.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, 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 dun.
It's the kind of stuff that looks quite simple, but then it would paint up really nicely and very quickly, probably as well. So,
I mean, get some good block colors and a bit of contrast down there, you're done.
No, I'm not going to go through that because there's 19 pages and it's all mixed. I'm going to go up to what I'm going to call sarcasm on, because I'm all about the sarcasm. The mechs, drones, and AIs are great. Mercs are great, and the free rifters are maze balls.
I love that guy. He's amazing.
Oh, you're going to be saying that an awful lot because all of their bots and droids are great.
That is adorable.
Baymax when he got armored up.
Yeah.
That's a Stargrave crew member right there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, or if you want something different for core space.
One of those big nuclear detonators, like a cooker timer, you just turn it. It takes down, he explodes all over people.
Isn't that just his heart plug?
Okay, be a heart plug. Go for it.
I mean,
there's a wee dude in there.
You could do Wizard of Oz in space if I only had a heart.
A nuclear heart.
Yeah, well, he's a bit TikTok man then, but like a sci-fi TikTok man.
That's kind of cool. I like that one.
Axe or a blade he's carrying in his other hand?
It's a knife.
Big old knife.
It's a knife.
A knife.
I quite like the more bell-shaped robot, actually. I think that's kind of I think there's another one of them as well.
Oh, don't worry. There's a couple. Yes.
Yeah, that guy. He looks cool.
The heavy battle robot.
Oh, I really want to find some use for these in like Warpath or Firefight or something. I think. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's not going to be difficult. Considering the size of that, you could use them as your Iron Ancestors. Bam.
You could smash these into your Weird World War II stuff as well.
Oh, yeah.
Do some olive drab on there.
Oh, I think if they're going to do
which
Weird
nation
World
would you
War,
give these to?
Who came up with the weird ball-looking ones?
I'd say the Japanese or something, maybe. I think that'd be kind of cool.
I know in Conflict there's already some sort of land vehicle that is just a giant sphere coming towards you with guns on it. And it's like gyroscopic, so the gun stays stable even though the entire thing's rotating. I think it might be the Russians have it. I would just go at that point, just make these Russian heavy infantry because they've got the same spherical look to them.
I'm confused. Who has the weird balls?
Possibly the Russians.
Is this something in reality we're talking about? These weird balls?
No.
Conflict 47.
Conflict 47.
Is that with people trapped in those bikes? Have you seen that?
Someone found a sketchbook of Da Vinci and decided to make it reality.
That makes sense. A more.
See, he's kind of cool as well. I like the clanky
neck.
The clanky look is the thing that makes it. You can actually like see how they move and walk across the tabletop. He looks a bit happy there.
I'm kind of getting like Fallout New Vegas vibes off this.
Yeah. His face reminds me of the Clampy guy in Futurama.
Clamps.
Well. Clamps.
This guy's as strong as an ox. We should call him Clamps. Yeah, I can't not see that now. Or he's not a million miles away from. Remember the absolutely insane guy who's always trying to stab Fry? And
yes, yeah.
He's not a million miles away from that with the long face and the two different sized eyes. I never seen a face on that until you started talking about how he has a face, and now I cannot not see a face. I'm holding you personally responsible for all the facing.
Work here is done.
But yeah, and like I say, so many more drones. In fact.
I am so in love with the kind of big bell bottom.
I'm kind of digging the little service drone.
Yeah, that is just doing around on a ball.
Yeah, you could use him as like just a little mobile bomb. Go on, Sparky, go boom boom.
What is my purpose? You explode.
To explode. Oh my god.
It's just somebody's just stuck a bin over BB-8's head.
I wonder if I can stick these in. Can I replace the Mechanicus guys with some of these?
Oh god, yeah. Nobody can stop you.
You know, they're deep sea diver looking guys. That's the ones.
Yeah.
Well, he looks like he just wants to shake your hand.
He reminds me a bit of the. I imagine he'd move a little bit like the Honda robot that they showed off like in the early 2000s. We're like, this is the future.
ACEMinis.
Yes,
I believe it was called.
I'm kind of getting Robbie the Robot vibes off that one.
Man, totally in love with those. So cool.
They obviously they have a plan for that, for breaching the rift, and have therefore made a full slew of these spherical bots.
Very cool.
Which are absolutely
just thought it was an amazing idea.
Yeah. Was that the sudden intake of breath we heard there?
Yeah. You know how like that looks like a rail gun?
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
What army in 40k has rail guns?
Tau.
Moo. Now, what if, and what do the Kroot float around in? Spheres.
Right, yes.
What about if this is a Kroot crafted battle suit? And if you were making a Kroot army themed, these would be your battle suits.
This is your way of insulting Lloyd, is it?
I would have gone the other way and gone and rolled them into human conscripts armies
that way.
For the Tau.
Yeah, so the humans are trying to emulate Tau technology, and it's just like, no, humans, you're small, you're smelly. You can go make your own robots.
I would just like to point out on the subject of Kroot/Taoisms. So that's your core droid that has no arms because it either carries a shield generator, a medi, or a thing. So those are your Tau shield drones for your Kroot in your bell suits.
I was going to say, big Kroot ball mechs is the way forward. So
and there's the title for this week's show.
It feels like, their version of a Space Marine.
Yeah.
Oh, have you ever seen the arc where they actually do a Tau warrior as a Space Marine? Creepy.
Nope. Do they still have little hooves creeping around?
I can't remember. It's that long since I've seen it.
I have, however, seen the old Orc Space Marine armor that they wore. And that reminds me a little bit of these as well. So.
I mean, you could make these orky, just stick some gubbins on.
Yeah, just throw more gubbins on. But imagine those with like big Kroot pennants and talismanic things around them and stuff. I think that would be amazing.
But Kroot don't have hooves.
No, Tau do.
Yeah.
Oh, the Tau do. Yes, the Tau do.
Justin was talking about a Tau being turned into.
Oh.
No, you wouldn't turn a Kroot into a Space Marine. They're far too static. They never really get up to speed.
They never run anywhere.
He seems to be doing a little bit of a jive.
He's cool. I like him. Like a breacher drone or something.
That would explain the
big drill hammer thing.
Yeah, that's a rock hammer. Oh, that would be a terrible weapon. Just put up against somebody's head. Or just go until you go through their helmet. Oh, Space Marine, sack it. Anyway,
very cool. Very cool.
Leaving the mechs and the mercs behind them, we sort of have the more alien-esque bits and pieces.
Ooh.
There's a pelican sapper who isn't some sort of scar-chomping rat. Just saying he's not.
what happened to Danger Mouse when he let himself go. So,
DM.
When Penfold died, Danger Mouse became unstoppable.
Just roaming from town to town.
That is very core
Baron.
space. That's like proper full-on core space alien style. I like that.
I mean, that's definitely an alien barman who's just had enough.
Yes.
I don't serve blue milk. Why do you humans keep asking for blue milk? Get out of my establishment.
Mm.
Look, there's another one of those possibly Hobbit type alien thing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But in the future.
Even
In the future, they've learned to wear shoes. Well done, there.
Adari Haka.
Well, you know, space is cold.
It's the big nose. What's that? Farscape? Farscape with the dreadlocks and the nose alien?
Yeah. Pilot. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh no, Pilot was the big blue alien, was he not?
Yeah, that's right. Oh no! Are you thinking of the big barbarian?
Big
dude?
angry
Yeah,
fella.
Sorry, I know what you mean. Yeah. Yes.
Call him.
I like this
Tiny
little
pilot.
armored rover type thing.
That's cool.
Yeah. The
I wonder what
exploration.
size that is.
There might
Can I
be.
use that as chimeras?
Well,
I don't know. I think it's going to be fairly dinky,
It's going to be tiny, isn't it?
it looks much
Based-
better
just-
than what the League of Votan gets.
just based on the wheel size. I imagine those are sort of standard. So
Kind of like the Dad's Army bathtub.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
There's
for
the
scale. Space dwarf with cake for scale.
Can might not be a cake.
I know.
Although
I think it's a chocolate
it
gatto.
looks like a cake. I'm getting
very.
very Dark Forest vibes from that.
Yes.
Yummy,
Just
yummy, yummy.
waiting for someone to come up with the bowl of whipped cream.
It's very cute though. Never.
Yeah, it's cool.
Lovely.
A nice generic space vehicle. Very
Mm.
cool. Yeah.
Just a little exploration ruler. Look at that.
Go up one.
Up one.
This beardy guy, like here on the left, that one.
That one.
Otobaro.
I like to look at this.
Bravo.
Some kind of evolved space rat.
I don't know. if
Say
it's a
that to his
space rat.
face.
Yeah.
Jeez, yeah.
Well, look at his face.
It's
Oh,
a
no, it's-
squirrel.
Yeah, or some form of feline.
I really like
Very
that they've
chunky
kind of
feline.
pushed the boat out to create some interesting and unique alien creatures. Like they don't look too much like anything that exists in other game worlds. Really.
Yeah, with the exception of the Hobbit /
Well,
thing.
yes,
And
yeah.
even then, the facial with the big nose and the nostrils on the sides and dreadlocky bits. So it's not just short human, although there are short humans.
I like his tiny feet.
He might not have real feet. He might end in like stumps.
Maybe he ends in the
Maybe
top
they're-
of just above his knees. Yeah.
Yeah. Or prosthetics. Just has
Yeah.
two little stumpies. And there's a crew, including one of those tiny little what we
Wow.
call now
the
crit
dog
drones.
man.
Is
This
that
is-
a mole person in the back?
This is some serious cinematic photography going right
It
here.
is. That guy.
Wow.
He's a
Gomo.
Gomu. Obviously. His name's Uti, or he's an Uti, and his name is Gomu. Choice is yours. You must decide.
You're Gomo. You're also heavy.
Regardless, he's entirely naked, save his belt. So
You don't know that. He might just be wearing like assassin's figure hugging style.
Oh no, he's like a
Lycra.
naked mole rat. Yeah.
No.
See, here's the thing,
Can't
Dan.
make me
Do
think
you
that.
expect a centaur to wear trousers?
That's weird, actually. Yeah, I get your point. Yeah. I don't want a centaur to wear trousers. That would be odd. That would be really odd.
Well, here's the question: would it just be the hind legs, or would it be all four of the lower legs up to the waist of the human-esque part?
It would only be where the junk is.
That makes no
Ah,
sense.
So if
yeah.
the junk's at the back, it'll just be the back two legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then,
Yeah.
then when he needs to go to the loo, how does he reach back that far? I mean, it's going to be like
Because they have very dexterous.
You're saying a lot of words.
That's not the right word.
this sounds like a form of
Dexterous.
English.
I don't know. They can wiggle their feet a lot.
That is exactly what I thought you were going for.
So you're now thinking of a centaur surreptitiously wiggling their way out of some pants now.
So
So.
doing a bum wiggle just to drop them.
Yes.
Then how do you get them up again without help?
Even in space.
So
halflings
another
are
centaur
robbers.
comes up and pulls him
love
up.
the space halfling. Love the space halfling.
It's pugs in space.
Yup.
Space pug. I hope they have some sort of, negative modifiers for their stamina because their breathing is still terrible.
Yeah, that thing. And they have to have a minus to the shooting stat just in case an eyeball pops.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
We can rebuild him. Rawr.
Hello,
familiar.
Justin.
Oi.
He looks a little bit like one of the Muppets.
That looks even more like Justin when he puts on his cosplay stuff.
Harsh but fair.
You'll soon be playing as Duhotun the engineer.
That's what you told me that was for, that mask. You said it was cosplay.
That one time I had it mailed to the office, it was an accident. I clicked the wrong button on my autofill.
Very, very Rayman looking. That's kind of cool. I like that.
It's got little chin whiskers. I like it.
Yeah.
I like his little feet.
He's like a goat person, little goat person.
Yeah, with his drippy ears. Yeah.
It's a bad day.
Glad you said that, and I didn't have to. But yeah, the sci-fi range is the more comprehensive, but it includes most of the Sarkasson stuff in there as well.
What a nice little.
What's Project Bahara?
Project Bahara is their bust.
Okay.
So yeah, there's interesting things, like say Pugs of War, Space Critters bust. We've seen most of them. There is something to be said.
Monocycle.
I thought you liked that. About having a rake of space dwarves bounding around, not in the stereotypical space dwarf
I like
things.
those. Mm-hmm. I like those.
Having your little speedy monowheels.
They feel like proper tunnel craft. You can see those whizzing along.
Yeah, you don't want big and bulky.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
These are your fast attack option, I suppose. He's got a little screen so you can see what's in front of him. You'd be surprised how many of these monowheel type things don't have them.
So you have to lean out the side.
I mean, I'm concerned.
See, anytime I see anything like this, I always want to put it on a ramp whenever I'm modeling it because
Yeah, I've got some on one list's way to one side, one's upright, one list way to the other side, just because you can donut them around things. It looks great. They're also doing this. I don't know how far this has got. Essentially, it's a plan to remaster an old style one into CAD and reproduce it. The plan was when they get a significant amount of orders, I think 75 or so, they'd be able to push ahead with it.
So doing threshold stuff?
That type of thing. However, it's been sitting for a while, so I don't know if they've got anywhere near that number yet. So this, while it's here, is a pre-order, and it's a pre-order on the basis that when they hit that number, that they'll be able to start fulfilling it. So this is very much a do not be ordering it if you're after something for next week because you've got a game to play next month or a tournament to go to, whatever, because it could be months from now. It really is a way that they're hoping to get in a bigger vehicle that hasn't been produced in a while. But yeah, it's
so if you're wanting it, order it and pester 2 other friends to order it and have them pester 2 other friends to order it.
The problem with that is you've got 13 cycles and then you outdo the population of the world. But I think
the problem with that is if you go looking for a custom vehicle like that, you don't want your friends to have it.
That's very true.
That's the problem there.
That is 100% true. But yeah, just thought it was a cute and cuddly little thing to have a look at, just for some alternative things for your sci-fi games.
These are brilliant. Yeah,
Space Beavers.
Space Beavers. I thought it was a Space Kobold for a second.
No, nobody wants kobolds.
I like his little feet.
Yeah,
but they're space.
You're really liking people's feet.
It's very, very much on a feet type thing at the moment. I don't know why, but I just thought there are so many figure agnostic sci-fi games that have hit recently, and this company has some really genuine
stuff,
unique looking stuff. That it'd be worth giving people a bit of a spotlight into this. And also, if you happen to be playing your World War II and you're after some bike trips as well for the Italians and Russians, I mean, you're not going to find them in many other places. So there we have it. That is Gydran Studio. Yeah. And like I say, they are working on a sci-fi game of their own, and you can sign up on the website as well to play test. So hopefully that gets resurrected now that things have got a bit out and in the world again and the event is over. That's what Joe Biden said. I believe him. Right. Shall we have a quick swish and come back and take a look at the news?
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
All right, we are back for some news, and we're going to be jumping straight in with a whole new rule set, Ben.
Oh, yeah. So the Perry twins have joined forces with none other than Jervis Johnson.
There's a name that rings a bell.
I know.
Wow.
I thought he only wrote Warhammer rules.
I thought you were going to say Jarvis for a minute there.
Also, yes.
It is past the year 2000, yeah. So anyway, Perry Miniatures have joined forces with Jervis Johnson to create a new set of entirely free Napoleonic wargaming rules. For free? So yes, this is called Valour and Fortitude. And it has been designed so that it's a quick and easy to understand set of Napoleonic gaming rules. As I say, they are free, and they come in at a hefty 8 pages long. It does read a little bit like a maths textbook, but I have been assured that it is very good, as I've seen in some people's comments online and all that kind of stuff as well.
Oh,
So,
wow.
It is.
This is very OG.
yes.
We'll have to say right off the bat, if you're worried about that 8 pages, don't panic. The first 2 is the cover and the
And
foreword.
literally, Jervis just talking about random nonsense.
So we're down to 6. And then
And the last page is a
2
crib sheet, yeah.
is your quick reference and your FAQ. So actually, we've only 4 pages of rules.
Effectively, yes.
It's a very good set of rules, actually, because I was having a nosy through it.
This could break me. This could break my Wolfon. I could just go off and get the Wolfon armies and use 8. What is it? 6 pages of rules?
4
pages
of rules. But it's got some fascinating little tweaks in it. With the system we'll all think of whenever you're playing a war game is you generally have something that goes move, shoot, fight,
run away.
That is your standard sort of breakdown of a lot of turn sequences and a lot of games across a lot of genres. This goes slightly different because you go fire. Well, actually, you start with fate. So all the units use a set of 13 cards from a suit, a deck of cards. So you've got
hearts and spades.
Hearts and spades. And each army list has their own sort of unique things. So you draw one at the start of the turn and you can play it immediately or hang on to them, build up a collection of them and use them to smash your opponent. So you got fate, and then you have your shooting, and then you have your action phase, and the action phase lets you do maneuvers or rally or assault. So it gives that the Napoleonic feel where you're going, well, do I hold off to get in a better position this turn, or do I fire and I'm just left stuck there reloading for a turn? So by flipping the order round of those right off the bat, you've got some interesting questions, because you'd normally be going, well, I move forward and then I'll fire. And now you're going, well, it's either or, and the fire comes first. So you might have to wither a turn of fire to get into a position where you can assault with a big French column.
It feels more appropriate for the style of combat.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it kind of gives me the feel of Napoleonic combat, where you see like a lot of lines march up, and then there's just this crackle of gunfire, and then everyone takes some time to reload, and then people start moving again. So it feels like it fits that. One of the nice things that Jervis Johnson said in his little blurb at the start is that he's tried to design it without any game designer wittery. You'll have to bleep that. There we go. But
in the notes.
But it's got some of that in there.
Lloyd doing the cuss dance.
Yeah, all of that has been removed, which I think was a really fun way of approaching it. And as Jerry said, it's been cut down to just effectively 4 pages of rules, really. Yeah, I mean, fairly dense paragraphs, but it's not exactly like it's going to take you a long time to read it and dive in and stuff. But I think for a lot of people, one of the big things they've always said is that finding the right rule set for Napoleonics is always a bit of a slog.
That's always been the clincher,
and so this might, do it. I mean, the Perry twins aren't exactly shy of talking about Napoleonics and building amazing Napoleonic armies. And so they've been involved with this, and Jervis has been involved with this. And if they like it, then I think that
you can be guaranteed it's been play tested. That's for
sure. Yes, it definitely has been play tested. They talk about that a lot. Yeah, so
they will have play tested the bejesus out of this.
But this was also part and parcel of the sort of brief. It's like, here's a system that we can play games with, but also if you happen to be at a convention or be bringing new players in, you don't have to spend
demo
5
games
hours
and stuff,
explaining how the game works and all the various things. They should be able to pick it up very quickly without a big step, a speed bump getting in the way of actually playing the game.
I just need to get a deck of cards as well.
Yeah, just a deck of cards. And
buy a nice fancy Napoleonic one.
But if it plays
all.
pretty quickly, then if you're running something like a campaign, you could get like multiple rounds of the campaign in a single day. So maybe 2-3
Probably
rounds if you were lucky.
Yeah.
I know that's one thing I hate about campaigns is that slowness of waiting 2 weeks for the next round.
I don't know how quickly it plays. There was a thing where when they were play testing,
an hour or 2 apparently.
It was playing for longer.
Yeah,
but to mitigate that, they brought rules in, sort of a time.
Yes,
not
before you just flee the field.
Yeah, so that you can set that. But I also like the idea of going, well, to play out not Waterloo because you couldn't, but to play out a big chunk of Waterloo or one of the other large battles. I don't mind spending an afternoon doing it, but if you want to just go toys on the table, bang out a couple of games in a few hours and then head off to the pub, then it's also a very good way of doing it. So I like the fact that you have the army lists are relatively constrained. So you've got, again, a single sheet double-sided. One side will give you your entire army list and the other side gives you what the fate card do for you. And that's how they vary.
I really like that.
The play styles or add a bit of fog and friction to the game as well.
I didn't see much about basing. I've seen like one basing sort of art.
Basing is whatever you want, and as long as your opponent is similar, it doesn't even have to be identical. So if you're basing on 40 mil squares and they're basing on 60 by 40s or 50 mil, it's close enough kind of thing. You don't, as long as you're not running massively out. So it's as free form as it can be to allow you to play about with it. And there's even a couple of
3 different scenarios
that you can play. So
as you might imagine, you just charge at each other.
This'll do.
Very, very basic ideas behind it, but obviously there's rooms for aggressive expansion beyond this. So it's quite nice.
In the rules as they stand, there are breakdowns for the French, the Austrians, the Prussians, and the Russian armies. And they've said that expansion stuff is coming in the future. They're going to be doing British and Spanish. So you'll have 2 more big hitters effectively. And they said that the rules can be tweaked and changed and all that kind of stuff. And they are going to be working on doing additional rules because, of course, they are, because this is what the Perrys play and make. They're going to be doing the War of the Roses and the Franco-Prussian Wars as well. So if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about that, it's probably worth keeping an eye on stuff. War of the Roses would be very nice. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later as well.
Yeah.
So,
Or even Franco. I mean, they've started doing the Franco-Prussian.
They have recently. Loads and loads of new metals and stuff. Yeah.
But that having a accessible, easy rule set for Franco-Prussian would be fascinating as well.
Yeah. And it's free. There's no reason not to go and check it out and give it a read. You can sit on the bog and read it by the time you're finished. So there we go.
Very, very good price. And and if you don't like it, you've got something to wipe your backside.
Top tip though, if you are going to read it on the bog, after you finish squeezing it out, stand up and then sit back down again and then read. It's something to do. It's reset something in your arse or something. You shouldn't sit when you're open for too long or something. So standing up and sitting down resets it.
It's the equivalent of turning your sphincter off.
Thank you, I think. Something to do with getting too much air up your bum. I don't know. Could be. For all I know.
He heard it on the internet.
But let me just say, I'm not a doctor.
But he has watched the Law of House.
Of the episode.
Is it lupus? Tell me it's lupus.
It's never lupus.
Oh dear.
Right.
Okay.
So
anyway, moving from one void to another, we're going to be looking at the new September releases for Bushido. So the first of these is
that looks
Kickstarter for Vault 5e is the Void themed warband. So folks will have noticed that this had come out actually a little while ago at events, but now it's going to be available for you to pick up properly. The Void have been designed effectively as the entire antithesis to the Temple of Rokan and their divine ways, effectively. Whilst many of the characters and creatures within the world of Bushido can draw on ki in order to do their amazing powers, the Void are devoid of ki, and so will even sap it from those around them as well. So they're like the proper masterful evil characters within your games. Another one of the characters that's been added to the mix as well is this very, very nice Master Shi, who could be picked up to use the leader within your Bushido forces. And it's just really nice to see them continuing to do this kind of themed warband thing. I know the next one that's coming up is a Kitsune themed one, so it's got lots of fox people in it, which I think is very, very cool. So make sure to look out for that one. In addition to the Void, we also have some new releases for a variety of the different factions. So we've got Hiroto, the Drunken Master, who is for the Ronin and can be used as a mercenary in a bunch of different forces. He comes with his big old katana and a big old belly. A big old belly.
Keep your belly.
Yeah. Apparently, he will deal with you when he sees fit to deal with you. So that'll be very interesting to see how that works on the tabletop. I love the kind of like old master vibe, those big rippling muscles and then the massive beer belly. So
he clearly sat on the toilet too long, got too much air inside.
Probably, yes.
So that's wind, not beer.
Wind, not beer.
Apparently, there is a thing about trying to empty your diaphragm out properly, get rid of a pot belly because of a lot of it's trapped wind.
Okay. We are learning so much.
We are.
I like to say,
by his YouTube choices.
I'm not a doctor.
I'm not a doctor. Next up, we have another miniature for the Cult of Yuri. This is Fuwa Kaiden, who is the ghost-style character featured into your games. She's very different from a lot of stuff that's in Bushido in that she's really not offensively orientated, much more focused on the idea of support and that kind of thing. And they said that they played around a lot of times with kind of playtesting for the character to try and make it so that she would survive long enough in order to use her powers for the rest of the warband. So it's going to be a really interesting sort of tactical choice, I think, for a lot of people who are diving into play.
She looks like Lion-O.
She does look a little bit like Lion-O, yes.
I think she makes a good banshee though as well.
Well, she's a big ghost, so yeah.
Or some form
seems
of
to be escaping
evil
from
gin.
the lantern.
Yeah. So
I'll have to cut the lantern bit off.
It looks like it's on a separate.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So very, very cool model. If you want to play around with something a little bit different with your sort of undead in Bushido, then we have some much more martially focused characters. So we have Nagato, who is a proper ninja who comes with those amazing hook swords. He has probably cut off many of his digits beforehand. He's trying to learn how to use that. But you'll be able to swing that around and take people out. His abilities allow him to engage multiple opponents at once. So rather than just having to strike against one fellow, you can instead swing that around and hit multiple people in combat and stuff. Because obviously he's a whirling dervish of pain.
Great for Ninja Turtles.
Great for Ninja Turtles. Yeah.
Ninja Shredder.
I don't know, that headband's a little bit Naruto.
That headband is very Naruto, actually, especially with the plate. Yeah, very much so. And then once
again, we see the age divide there, Lloyd.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, we have Kinzoku, who is an armorer who is able to bestow special properties onto the armor of other individuals within his warband and enchant their weapons and their armor and stuff to protect them from even the most deadly of blows. So a very cool miniature that's, again, a little bit sort of going down the idea of it being a supplementary character rather than it being a sort of straight and out kind of offensive piece, which I think is quite nice to see. And as we talked about last week on the XLBS with Jason, actually, Bushido is a really fun little game. And if you're interested in it, I think there's no reason not to dive in and give it a shot. There are categorically releases every month for this game, and they will normally cover pretty much all of the factions each time they do. So it's definitely not a game that you'll be like, oh, where's the new releases? They are always churning lots of interesting things out for people, and they're a very friendly bunch as well in their community. So very cool.
It has a real distinctive look to it as well.
Yes,
where it sort of blends the
mythology
of Asia with the reality. So you get some really distinctive and unique looking figures as well, which we've just seen. I mean, things like the armorer as a support character offering up the helmet is really, really nice. And at the same time, Lion-O as a ghost is obviously great. Thundercats.
Oh, anyway. Moving on from that, we're going to be diving back into the historical and actually into the War of the Roses. So Andy Callan, who a lot of people will know, created the amazing kind of my first time wargaming books with Peter Dennis that we've looked at in the past.
And he's wrote all the rules for the Wild Fun.
He has, yeah. So he is quite good at writing quick and easy rules. Sat down in 2020, well, actually before that, but in 2020 to bring Nevermind the Billhooks, which is obviously a very good pun, to the tabletop. This was a set of, as they described it, beer and pretzel style rules for playing out quick and easy games of the War of the Roses on the tabletop, and also sort of late medieval scuffles in general, effectively. Well, the folks over at Wargames Illustrated have decided to come back to the project with Andy once again, and have effectively given the rules a deluxe treatment. So rather than it just going to be, well, it was just a supplement alongside their magazine back in 2020, but it's now actually going to get a proper big full release as a nice book with lovely artwork and all that kind of stuff as well. A lot of the stuff that has been talked about on the Nevermind the Billhooks Facebook group has been taken into account. So they've kind of FAQ'd and errated a bunch of stuff. And as the editor has said in their latest press release thing, Andy says he's done, although we think he's still writing. So it should be coming out fairly soon, which I think is quite cool. The focus again of this is that it's more around the idea of, as they say, small skirmishes and small battles and large skirmishes.
Large skirmish, yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of the idea of sort of interesting, tight engagements between units that aren't going to last hours and hours and hours. And even though they've said that people have played this with like 6 players per side, huge armies and all that kind of thing, and the game worked, the real focus of the game is to be played with maybe 3 or 4 units per side, some leader characters and that kind of stuff as well. One of the other things that was really interesting in this is that I assumed, because you hear a lot of the sort of mythology of the longbow and all that kind of stuff in medieval history. One of the big things they wanted to put into this is they really wanted to get across the kind of smash of arms and that kind of fight between infantry, because that was the stuff that won battles. And so to that effect, bows are good, obviously, because, they were, but there's a real focus on it being a much more of a melee struggle and focusing around the idea of how the formations act with each other and that kind of stuff as well. So sounds really cool. And I think if you're interested in this kind of period of the War of the Roses, it's definitely worth one to go and check out. So
it's funny. I've got the original from Wargames Illustrated, although because I'm not currently playing War of the Roses type games, it's just been sitting on a shelf. But there were some fascinating little bits and pieces in there that Andy did. One of which was the way sort of stakes and the like disrupt infantry coming in. Means that in Warhammer you would always have the Bretonian archers with a big line of stakes right in front of them. Yeah. I go, well, in reality, really what happens is they come up, they get disordered, so you wouldn't deploy your archers tied up against your defense. You deploy them a bit back, shoot over, and then when people come past, they get disrupted, their lines get broken, the shield walls...
Shoot them some more.
And now they're not in cover anymore because they're not behind a line of stakes. You just shoot them and pick them off one by one as they come through. But it's funny that we looked at Valour and Fortitude being like a four-page rule system, essentially, because if I remember right, before the little 20-page Billhooks supplement came out from Wargames Illustrated, and they had originally written a 4-page rule set for him and his friends, and the only reason it expanded was because it was like, well,
they told him I
know how this works, and you know how this works because we're playing together.
For other people.
But explaining to other people needs to get a bit bigger. It's one of the reasons why Valour and Fortitude is very dense, because it's trying to get, and terse, I think is the other word that Jervis used, because it's getting across so much information in a very brief window. But it'll be fascinating. In a couple of years, will we see Valour and Fortitude be expanded into something more comprehensive and more sort of big book format?
I should also say,
granular you want to get with it.
Yeah, very true. There are a lot of people who love the little bit more of that granularity to games. I know a lot of people who play the hex and counter style stuff love that sort of element to things, of course. But yeah, I should also say that as well as the book getting a revamp, they're also going to revamp the gaming cards and the tokens as well. Oh, so the game came with, like I said, gaming cards and stuff as references.
You could print them out yourself, or you could buy an actual printed deck from Wargames Illustrated, which I never got around to buying.
The old version of the rules, by the way, are still available on the Wargames Illustrated website for like £6, I think, as a digital download. But obviously, you might want to wait to see whether or not this is worth giving a shot. I'm sure there'll be some videos on it and stuff, as there were with the release back in 2020. So yeah, very cool.
It's definitely worth having a butcher's over and playing out some little small teeny tiny games.
Yeah,
not everything has to be a massive battle, they tell me. Speaking of massive battle,
say that to 12-Point Saga. That's what I say. Yeah. Next off, we're moving to a galaxy far, far away, and it seems very apt considering that Andor is out in the world now, which is kind of cool. But this is going back to the Clone Wars, in fact, with a little bit of a pandemic spin-off with a new board game from the folks at Z-Man. So, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, which you'll see,
I've heard of that,
actually includes some proper awesome cartoon style characters. Booyah, Ahsoka Tano, pow pow pow. And also Asajj Ventress is in there as well, and she's awesome. But anyway, so this is going to be similar to the pandemic system in that you're going to be trying to stop something from taking over areas of the game board. In this case, the something is the separatist droids and the Sith. And so you're going to be moving around your heroes across the board, trying to stop planets from being blockaded by the separatists and closed off from your control. So it'll have the same kind of feel to a traditional game of Pandemic in many ways, where you'll be moving around the map using cards to do so, dealing with the enemies there in a variety of different ways, which we'll get to in a second, and then trying to put out lots of different fires around the galaxy as you do. Some of the interesting things that have kind of tweaked and changed stuff in the game, from the basic Pandemic game is that there's actually card and dice based combat in this as well. So there's a little bit of something extra thrown into the mix, which I think is really nice to see, rather than it just being the same kind of almost essentially Euro game. They've thrown a little bit of an extra kind of randomization into there, bit of a Merithrashy style thing, just to kind of give things a little bit more of that kind of over the top heroic Hollywood flair as well, which I think is really nice to see. I also have to give top tips. I have to tip my hat to them for the top use of amazing artwork from the various Asmodee games rather than going with screenshots and stills, because my God, that would be terrible. But there we go.
When Maul is removed, he loses 3 power and also his lower torso.
And also his
unlucky Darth Mulemacher, old pal. It's interesting looking.
I think it's a really interesting. I think it's a really interesting use of the Pandemic system to do something similar whilst also stepping away from the core mechanics in a way that feels representative of the Star Wars universe. Because you're trying to play out that kind of like a little bit more over the top heroic nature to things. And that wouldn't necessarily come across if you were just going to be doing like a card based one. I've managed to make sure the maths works. I think playing around with different concepts is really cool. And I'm really interested to give this one a go. I think the other thing that's really nice about this is that it should be a good way to get people into board games if they were maybe a little bit kind of like hesitant beforehand. Pandemic's always had a little bit of
Star Wars.
Hook them with Star Wars. That's what you got to do. Obviously, a lot of people are like, "Oh, Pandemic's a great gateway game." But as I was talking to my friend actually this week about it, some of the rules can be a little intense. I think this kind of will play around with that and
the subject matter. Everyone's sick of it.
Well, yeah, of course.
I am bored of Star Wars, but having a common IP to draw someone in so that narratively their head's already in the space to actually start learning more about it.
Yeah,
sure, it works, but overall for me, I'm just a little too bored of Star Wars.
I will never be too bored of Star Wars. When I'm too bored of Star Wars, it's time to bury me because I'm bound to be stinging.
And you'll bury him in that massive episode 1 cloth behind him. So,
my shroud.
It is shroud.
This
is shroud of Jerry.
Nice,
interesting stuff there. Hopefully people will check that out. I think there's going to be lots of damage and stuff around the Eschenspiel time. So
I imagine we'll see an
it.
awful lot of it come October. Yeah. Fantastic stuff. Italians in the Gentleman's War.
Oh, yes.
And Ben has been practicing this for hours. So, Ben.
Okay. So, all of the new Italian stuff is going to be landing for Bolt Action from Warlord Games. Actually, this weekend, all the pre-orders are going to be live for all this stuff. So you'll be able to go out and pick it all up. We start with the, let's get it right, Bersaglieri, or maybe just the Babidi-Boopy. Let's say
Bersaglieri.
Bersaglieri starter army. So this is effectively this is going to be made up of the new plastic kit for the Italian infantry that we have actually seen previewed a couple of times over the last year or so, I think, actually. But it's going to be a big 36-man infantry box, all of plastic miniatures that can be basically created in many, many different ways with a whole slew of different weapons for you to build your Italians in World War II. Now, we were talking earlier a little bit about the Italians when we were looking at the Indie of the Week. And one of the things that I think is always a little bit of a misnomer is that the Italians were all just basically white flag waving surrenderists who would run away at the slightest sight of an American tank. But in actual fact, in reading this and learning a little bit more about it, the Italians, whilst a lot of them maybe ran away when the Allies invaded Italy, a fair amount of them were actually really elite soldiers. And this kit has been designed in such a way, alongside some of the other stuff we're going to see, to kind of represent that on the tabletop. Because Warlord are trying to effectively build on what they've done previously with the Italian Wars book and that kind of stuff, to kind of give us some interesting stuff to play around with in World War II, which I think is really nice.
Yeah. I think it was more a case they were badly led in a lot of cases, and badly equipped. They were still, I think they were still set up for fighting interwar when everybody else was upgraded. So because I think when the North Africa campaign kicked off, and when the likes of Rommel was sent down to support them, he got some fantastic use out of the Italian troops.
He loved them. He loved them. So
and they big chunks of them were still fighting at the end of the war on both sides.
So the Bersaglieri starter arm, as you see there, as I'm about to say, it comes with some new stuff. So you get a plastic M1340 medium tank, which can also be built as a Semovente 7518 assault gun, if you prefer. So you can play around with that stuff. And those are no pushovers in their own right, which is kind of cool. The Bersaglieri starter army also comes with an officer team, a medium machine gun, and a medium mortar team, because of course they do. Everyone loves those. And there's also a 20mm anti-aircraft gun as well, because, a lot of people hot dropping people into Italy. God damn it. So there we go. But,
I like it. It looks really appealing.
It's a really fun kit. I think
it looks like a really good box set. I'd be interested in it if I could say the words.
Just say
with the fingers up. A boobity babbity babbity boo.
What unit are you going to move now, Lloyd? I don't know.
The babbities are moving.
If you wanted to avoid having to say complicated words, you could also just say the black shirts, because you can actually make an army of black shirts using exactly the same box set. All you got to do is switch around some of the heads and some of the weapons that they're equipped with.
Lose the big cockerel feathers off the helmets.
Lose the feathers.
Is that a fez?
Yes.
Yeah. And you can make a black shirts army instead. So if you want to play as Mussolini's fascists, then you can definitely do that. And this set is effectively more or less the same as the last one in many regards. You get the 36 infantry that you would normally get in the normal infantry kit, but you also then get the Semovente kit and all that kind of stuff.
I think there's like a priest socks thing going on here, because they're called the black shirts, but it's really just dark blue.
It's the old question, like, how do you paint black? You don't.
There's also the machine gun team and the mortar team in there. They have played around with this a little bit in that you've got a pair of officers, a medic, and a radio operator to play around with in that set, which is really cool.
Is this the same box set?
It's essentially the same box set, except there's
different heads and stuff.
Well, yeah, because the plastics are still the same.
Is it two different box sets and you buy? It's not one box set that builds both, or one or other. So it's two different box sets.
So it's two different starter armies. Within them are the plastic set that can build all the different types of infantry. But then they've supplemented it with some of the additional characters and tanks and things like that.
I think the only real difference you'll run into is
the command.
Because the command's going to be metal. It'll have the specific one depending on which force you're going to run, but the core plastic troops will make either.
Yes, yeah. So you could do both if you really wanted to.
Yeah, you can mix and match. You could have black shirts in as elites or veterans or whatever you want to call them alongside them.
I mean, it looks like it'll be an interesting painting challenge for folks out there.
I think it'd be really fun. I think it'd be really a good opportunity to try something a little bit different.
A World War II army that's not bloody green all the time.
Exactly.
As we bring up picture of green.
So this is
let you away with it.
So this is actually the next two we're going to be looking at are some more of those kind of elite soldiers that the Italians had to draw upon. Obviously, I'm not a massive World War II buff or anything, but this is what I've red anyway. So this is the ex-Arditi infantry section. I probably could have just said Arditi rather than putting the accents on, but there we go. And this is the equivalent. The tough. So this is actually effectively the Italian equivalent of the British Commandos in many regards. They were incredibly physically and mentally tough. They were incredibly experienced in combat and would be sent behind enemy lines and all sorts of different things. So if you're looking for a very, very good squad of specialists for your army, then this is definitely one to pick up and play around with, which I think is really nice. And they all come with fancy hats as well. The Italians love a fancy hat.
Everybody loves a fancy hat.
And what periods can I play? If I buy this box set?
What, early, mid, or late?
What are you playing?
All of it.
Well, yeah, pretty much all of it.
The Italians were still fighting.
Still fielding that tank towards the end of the war.
They were still fighting in parts of Italy until the bitter end. So as to how much armor they had and where they were located might be a bit more ropey. But they're, easily early war, easily mid in North Africa, and then up through Italy in the defense. And then at that point, you've got partisans and the king's, essentially the king's Italian forces fighting against the fascist Italian forces as well. So you can have them on both sides. Not sure if I assume the Italy book will cover both as well. I haven't looked at it.
I think it does actually. Yeah.
And you can sprinkle in some Germans if you want.
You can, yeah, obviously.
Did they look different, the kings versus the fascists?
I honestly don't know. I don't pay enough attention.
Was it like Royalists versus Roundheads? Yeah.
I have a stinking suspicion it probably was. I spend a lot of my time on the Eastern Front with Danes, so I haven't looked at the Italian campaign hugely.
So the next set is another set of their kind of specialists. So this is the San Marco Marines. There's another infantry section that's going to be available if you pick up. These are all new sculpts as well, by the way. So they're not something that they're recycling, which I think is really nice to see. The pride of the Italian Navy, these fellows, fought all around the Mediterranean and in North Africa as well. They took part in Tobruk. So if you wanted to play out some stuff around then, you can do. And just a nice little set, armed to the teeth, as you can see, and also dressed in their naval uniforms as well. If you couldn't tell by the anchor, I suppose. But
you will have to freehand that.
Yes, you will. Yeah,
you say that, but pretty much every
transfer for it.
Well, pretty much every Warlord box comes with transfers. If they're doing shield cuff or not shield, if they're doing cuff ribbons for the Germans, I'd be surprised if they didn't do anchor transfers for the naval.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those ones do look free-handed, but I guess maybe they were painted before they were produced.
Yeah,
I will tell.
And last but not least, we also have a set of their colonial troops as well, with incredibly high-topped fezzes. So this is to represent the essentially the African colonies that would have been fighting for the Italians during that period. Really, they were apparently used in East Africa quite a lot against the Allied invasions. As you might have imagined, somewhat unfortunately, they were not exactly given the best weapons. But despite that, they were pretty hardy fellows indeed, and were very, very good up close and personal, apparently. They used those very long fighting knives, as you can see there, to great effect when they combat with the allies and stuff. So if you're looking to change things up a little bit and add some of the sort of colonial troops to the mix as well to try and give you that interesting sort of mosaic, what everything looked like in West Africa and stuff, then you can give it a shot. Obviously, this was also the period where the Commonwealth were fighting alongside the rest of the Brits and the Americans in North Africa and that kind of stuff as well. So, lots of different people from all sorts of different walks of life fighting in those deserts. And you could tell some really interesting stories there, I think. So,
and to be fair to the colonial troops there, when they didn't get the best equipment, we have to remember when the Germans arrived and they didn't have any tropical troops or colonies of their own, they asked the Italians, is there anything they needed to do to adapt? And the Italians went, no. And they went, anything to their vehicles? And the Italians went, no. So they put the usual diesel into their vehicles and they all broke down because it was too thick. And the Italians had been using a thinner, tropically designed diesel for years. So apparently the Italians were just assholes to everyone.
It might be that they asked the guy on the gate who just didn't know, but just was going to give an answer anyway because, dagnammit, he knows everything.
Who would have be?
Yeah.
But We have obviously that big box set to win as well. So, if you wanted to start.
And that's obviously based around the Desert War and that kind of stuff as well. So it's perfect time to grab that and have fun with both the Allies and the Axis.
Talk your friends into doing the Italians.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I like that. I like the Italians because I'm kind of a bit bored of seeing Brits and Americans and Germans. So it'd be nice to see
very cool.
Right, finishing off the news then, we are visiting the wonderful world of Warhamster.
Yeah, so not a lot of big pre-orders this week. They've been going through all their sort of Leagues of Votan stuff over the last little while. They're going to be available for everyone to pick up. But stepping into the realm of Age of Sigmar for a minute this weekend, we're going to get the release of the new Battletome for the Disciples of Tzeentch. So if you want to be playing around as the big old blue demons and all their bird friends, then you can do that. The feral chickens, and you'll be able to do that and dive in and have fun. The new Battletome obviously comes with all the updated stuff you need to play the game in the newest edition. You also get your sort of Path to Glory rules and all that kind of stuff. Talking of Path to Glory, you could start on one with the addition of the Vanguard set that you see here. This is the equivalent of the, pardon me, Nurgle's infested me. This is the equivalent of the combat patrol sets that they do for Warhammer 40,000. So designed for quick and easy play in Age of Sigmar. Comes with a Magister on a disc of Tzeentch at the front.
Very swoopy, isn't he?
That is swoopy indeed.
With his big long peacocky tail.
He's a swoopy boy. You then get 10 Zangors, which are the sort of Tzeentchian beastmen. You get 10 Carrick Acolytes that folks will know from the release of the Silver Tower back in the day. There's also 3 Flamers of Tzeentch, because you can't have a Tzeentch army without Flamers, and also 3 Screamers of Tzeentch at the back as well. No pink and blue horrors, but I'm sure you can find some room for them later. But yeah.
I don't know. Demons have never grabbed me.
Interestingly, I know a lot of people will demons, but the thing, I think,
polarizing force.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting things to be said about starting out with demons, because not only should they be really easy to paint, because you just use contrasts in order to make them pop effectively, a lot of washes and that kind of stuff, and they'll work really nicely. But also, if you collect demons in Age of Sigmar, they've all got round bases, and they would also work for Warhammer 40,000 at exactly the same time. You could just use the Carrick Acolytes as cultists that you've brought into your battles if you really wanted to, and you could have fun with that. So some interesting stuff there for Tzeentch, or Tzeentch, however you want to say it. There's also going to be I'm sure there's a whole reasoning why you can say it in different ways, because it's the changer of ways. But
not the changer of words.
Not the changer of words. That's true. Yeah. So I'm bad. But anyway, we have a new set of themed dice as well, which will probably go like hotcakes in about 10 minutes. And also the War Scroll cards as well, for you to refer to during battle. I'm a bit sad that the themed dice look so boring. I kind of hope they look a little bit more sparkly and magical myself. But there we go.
What disappoints me is you get War Scrolls for Age of Sigmar, but you don't get data slates for 40k.
I'm just going to say, because they change all the rules in 40k way more often than they do in Age of Sigmar.
Interesting, though. But if you want those really boring dice, this is the place to get them. Swing! Get your boring dice today.
Yes, get your boring dice, your new books, and your Vanguard set from us, and have fun. So
and then you can roll a blue abadi abadai.
You can.
Okay, and on that note, we're going to take a quick swish, and when we're back, we'll be rounding out the show. Okay, we're back, and we're going to be taking a look at some 3D printing, for it is, I believe, very much the upcoming thing. I've been informed by the kids.
The shiznat.
Down at the corn market with their skateboards. The kids, you've seen them.
Sure. They opened the new skate park in Ballymena. I'm sure it's all I'm talking about it.
Very much the fellow youths.
They've gone around from sitting on the side of the road with nothing to sitting on the side of the road doing their 3D printing.
I mean, it's getting really bad. You'll be walking past, they'll just be, Mister, got any resin on you, Mister?
Just someone walking up in the street going, you want to buy some Elegoo?
We're going to be taking a look at an ace little find.
We are, yes. Very well done.
Jamino has discovered.
Yeah. So I was trying to keep hold of this one, but I thought, screw it, I'll do it. So this is ACEMinis, and they have a tribe and a store and stuff for you to dive into and have a look at. And the main focus, as you can see, is the development and design of 3D printable tanks for you to use across your various sci-fi wargaming.
Although specifically for one sci-fi wargame.
Well, yeah.
I actually love the design of the multiple track units on this. Very cool.
Yeah. One of the things that's really cool about this is that they've purposely gone out of their way to try and make them modular kits. So they're designed from the ground up so that they come with magnet support, and lots of different pieces can be sort of plugged in and plugged out and all that kind of thing, allowing you to sort of fit whichever weapons you want onto them, change things out as you want. It means if you're going to be printing, a massive kit like one of these, you don't necessarily want to do that twice. And so having the ability to swap out the main guns and all of the additional sort of support weapons as well is obviously very handy. And it means you can tinker with things. Although, of course, if you're going to be printing out massive things, you may as well print out 2, I suppose, and have 2 on the tabletop, because why wouldn't you, I guess?
Depends on how you lay out your beds for your 3D printer.
True.
Do we
and
think
how
that
big
this
the bed is?
Is this the Ulrich?
This is the Ulrich SHT Type STS. Thank you very much.
Sure. Now, you say massive, but I thought that it said these were aimed at 6mm, so this is epic / Battletechy.
Really?
Although I suppose you could build them bigger if you wanted.
Well, I mean, you can just upscale so long as the polys are high enough in the 3D file.
I was fairly sure that they'd said 28mm for these.
There's 6mm on this one. Maybe they do both.
I think they do both.
It's a
I think they
journey.
do both. Yes.
We will discover together.
Yeah. So they're doing a whole range of different things.
6mm one.
So obviously you could print as many as you want on a bed with those. You could just set them all out and just print like an entire platoon of tanks.
Because there's your Ulrich shit, and look at the track unit. It's all very detailed tracks, multiple sections. And then here's the little 6mm version of it, and they're just lines across, so that they have different
some
different prints depending whether you're 6mm or 28. So that's good. We like that.
Yeah. And as you can see, the selection of vehicles is fairly broad at the moment. They've done a lot of kind of big vehicles. They've done artillery pieces, tank hunters, half tracks, and the like as well. I think what's quite nice about these is that it kind of fills in a lot of the gaps that I think have somewhat been left by the likes of Forge World for a lot of the Imperial Guard armies. You could use these to represent a lot of the different regiments out there.
Krieg.
Exactly.
That's what that is, right there.
Right there, yeah.
I know a couple of months ago we were talking to you, Lloyd, about, because you were sort of taking, was it tanks from dust and reformatting them for...
I was talking about it, but I never did it.
Oh, right. Well, there we go. Well,
so I never came to a conclusion that I was quite happy with, because I was also thinking of getting actual model kits of the whippets and things I was talking about.
I just noticed that myself, which is why I went back. So fully tracked, half tracked, total eclipse.
No track.
That's a cool option to have.
It is, yeah. And as I say, this is the kind of stuff
like that one.
Yeah. Instead of 2-track units, a single.
Yeah.
But I like the way it wiggles in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like a track. It's like a tank's feet, Lloyd. So yeah.
I like the feet on that.
Yeah.
Real tanks have curves. Is that it?
But yeah, I think they've done a really nice job of sort of representing a whole bunch of different armor that you could use in your games. As I say, the fact that it's modular, I think, is really cool, and you can change things out in terms of basically everything, really, to kind of make them fit to what you want.
There's your Chimera variant there.
Oh yeah,
rocking your Puma.
Puma.
It's even got a big old bar on the front of it for knocking people over.
Does it have the Banehound variant in there?
Yes, right
there we go.
Here,
yeah, nice,
and 3 more along that far flank.
Yeah, and they have the mortar variant too. Nice.
Yeah. So, well, there we go. Some like Hydra-esque vehicles.
Yeah, that is your Chimera variant.
They've got like half-track versions too.
They the thing that's quite obviously these have got that, especially when you look at things like the entry ramp at the back. They've got that kind of feel of the Grimdark and Warhammer 40,000 and that kind of stuff. But I think there's nothing about them that's so directly tied to that.
Yeah,
because obviously they're all inspired by historical vehicles anyway. In the grand scheme of things, that you could use these in entirely different armies if you wanted to, just by painting them differently. So
Dust and Conflict 47.
Yeah, easily. Yeah.
That's a really nice flak variant.
That's really cool. Yeah. And I think it's one of the things a lot of people kind of tend to overlook maybe a little bit when it comes to 3D printing. I know a lot of people will look at fantasy models and creating heroes for dungeon delving games and that kind of stuff. And a lot of people obviously dive into 3D printing to make terrain. But I think there's something to be said about bringing your vehicles to life in this fashion, because, you're getting stuff at a pittance of the cost almost, compared to buying a big vehicle kit from someone that's already made in resin and stuff. And as long as you set it up right and you print them decently, you should be quids in when it comes to building vehicles. So
this one's okay.
I like
it's just a Rhino. It's nothing spectacular.
Yeah, I was looking at it thinking they didn't need another boxy. It's like replacing one boxy thing with another.
That's cool.
But
seeing a ferret with a massive cannon.
Yeah, the actual, whenever they've gone, here's some 222 or a 234. And we're going to sci-fi it up. Those are just terrific. I'm on board with that 100%. Although there's no spare wheels now, so that's a bit of a shame. But you can't have everything. If you get
they're sci-fi wheels. They won't take punctures.
Oh yeah. There'll be those ones with all honeycombed inside.
Oh, yeah,
clever, like it. Yeah, I really the historic sci-fi adapted ones I think are far more interesting than just going, well, here's a cheap version of a Rhino for you.
Yeah. That you can build as a Predator, a Whirlwind, or a Razorback.
Yeah.
It's where they've gone that extra step and just gone, here's something unique and different.
Yeah. Although if you didn't like the Rhino pattern, I mean, that does have a nice retro feel to it. So if you were doing it for something like Horus Heresy, I think that would be okay.
What are these ones at the top?
The top ones, the little schleppers.
That's
the 6mm version.
That's got to be your Sentinel variant. Would be
What's
my guess.
There's 28 and 6mm
What's the
together.
No, that's 6mm as well. Oh, I see it. Yeah.
I think that would be the variant for your Sentinel, because the weapon mount is probably right where it would be on a Sentinel.
Well, if you look at the front of the face,
it looks like it.
Yeah.
It's very similar.
And then you could paint it like a frog or something. Today's the day where we find all the faces. All the faces.
Very much so. Yeah. But I think it's just a really fun little project. And as you can see, they've been doing it for a while, but it's not like a massive collection. But it's enough that you could fill in all the gaps in your Imperial Guard forces or whatever.
Some nice
there are enough variants within it. So even though they've only got 16 patterns or whatever it is, but within those you may have 12 different variants that you can field.
Yeah.
And those are so dinky.
Yeah. Can you jump down the bottom for me when we're done with this one? Because I could swear I've seen a Land Raider sort of shoot off.
The other thing as well that I think it bears bearing in mind is that once you get these files and you've got a hold of them, they're essentially yours forever. So it's not like you're going to be, if you're like, oh, I need to go and buy another Baneblade. You're like, well, instead of spending £70, just get one sorted for your printer. So
I like this better than a regular Land Raider with the front swinging doors.
See, I'm getting
Grav variant.
I'm getting Forge Fathers vibes from that. From that, I think that's really cool.
Oh look, and one where they've put the turret in front of the door.
The door, so you don't shoot your mates as they come out.
As they get out.
I remember the edition where you measured from the weapon position, and all of a sudden you saw everybody building them that way just to get those extra 2 inches on range.
It wasn't that. It was just it looked daft. I'm going to put a massive twin gun, or even worse, the Crusader variant, 6 bolters behind the door where people are going to step out into fire.
Heavy flamers.
I'll tell you what, Sarge, I'm not leaving this vehicle.
I quite like the look of that as an alternate for a Land Raider.
It's also got a face on the front as well.
It does. They all have that with the little eyes. Yeah. I wonder, because with the Hovery variant, is that a similar style then to the Primaris vehicle? Not the Land Raider, but whatever they're called it.
Yeah.
The Stormbringer of Darkness or something.
It's the Executioner or something. I don't know. Sure.
Yeah, anyway.
Oh, look, they've put the weapon behind the hatch again.
Somebody's getting in the head whenever they stick their head out there. That's unfortunate.
Surely there has to be a safety mechanism on the door when it opens. You can't fire.
Don't imagine there is. What's the point? Why stop
This
firing?
is the grimdark future. There's no safety.
That would be a great way to disable a whole army. Just open the hatches slightly.
Commander, we can't shoot. Why? The bloody doors won't close.
Veteran, tanker, and scout. This is their tribey tribe.
Yeah, so this is their tribe.
They've
done basically a vehicle and a few more bits each month. I think this month is a big old
250 half track.
Yeah. So you play around with that.
With
loads of guns
cannon bolted to the side.
So if
you just turn the wheel.
For me, at that point, it's definitely going more Warlord War than 40k at that point for me.
I think so. And that's
See,
not necessarily
I
a
don't
bad
know,
thing.
because the weapons are so 40k-esque and recognizable as 40k weapons.
But the body shape is so recognizable.
Oh yeah, I spot the body before I spot the weapons that are on it. Because you can't not see the 250.
Yeah.
It's there screaming out at you, coming at you like Cleopatra. I'm just missing a couple of bridging ramps over the back for my engineer variant.
Yeah.
Which they're probably going to have, I imagine, as well. Because why would you not?
Lovely stuff.
But yeah, so you can either back them on Tribes if you want to keep everything centralized, or you can go over to Patreon. Both of them obviously offer different things for you to pick up and stuff every month and have fun with. So yeah, if you're interested in tanks and you want to use them to create interesting alternative armies, make sure to go and check them out.
Yeah,
so it's ACEMinis. Yeah.
Yes. Just think, what was Sylvester McCoy's companion called? And you'll know. Yes.
There you go.
It's as simple as that. There's no other easy way to remember that.
That's the one with the bomber jacket, isn't it?
That is the one with the bomber jacket. Yep.
Yeah, I remember.
Right. So, getting into our Kickstarters then, we have two to round out the show.
Yes.
And the first is the Tormented Idols, which we covered a long time. It feels like we covered it forever ago, and yet it's only just hitting Kickstarter now.
So, Idols of Torment, or Idols of Torment, as you should probably say it, because that's the way it's written, from Black Magic Craft, is a new dark skirmish game that has been designed by the folks over there. The idea of the game is that you're going to be playing as warbands of individuals who are trying to claim the souls of the lost in the realm called the Echo. The entire focus of the game has tried to be kind of as heavy metal as possible. I think is probably the best way to say this. Even so far as to having its own soundtrack for the game, which I think is very cool.
On 12-inch vinyl.
On 12-inch vinyl. So
Lovely.
It's, you play that backwards, you probably will end up in the Echo, I would imagine. There we go.
Don't play it backwards because you'll end up unbacking the project.
No, my model. I'd say the focus of this is trying to create a really fun and interesting dark skirmish game. The game doesn't require you to buy any of their miniatures in a way. You can kit bash and do whatever the hell you want with them. There are a bunch of different warbands to choose from in the game that will allow you to play in very different ways. You've got like demons that are loving slaughtering people that love sacrifices, people that love twisting things and changing the game turns and playing with time, all sorts of weird and interesting stuff for you to get into. But the Kickstarter itself actually has STL files representing each of the different factions that you can choose from. So you can go and download and print those off if you would so desire. They've also worked on creating a set of plastic miniatures representing the lost, which are the kind of damned souls that you're trying to harvest during the game. That's a full little plastic set, as you can see. There's little sprues and stuff for those. They've also done tokens, and there's also obviously the rule book and a game mat and cards and all sorts of different things. To give you an idea of the actual game itself, the focus is to play on a very, very small play space effectively. If you see the game map when it comes up, it's actually quite a tiny area.
2x3.
2x3. And the focus is that you throw lots and lots of terrain on there, because terrain is very important in the game. And the hope is that you'll craft it yourself and all that kind of thing. And then you will play out very interesting, diverse turns where things will switch and change. And you might have priority one turn and it'll switch to the other player the other. And you'll be blasting yourselves around the map, going through portals and all sorts of different things, trying to claim as many of the souls as you can before the Echo kind of closes up and you are drawn back into your realm to give whatever you found back to your masters. The actual skirmish system and stuff is really cool. It's got a really nice sort of card-based feel to it. There's also dice involved and everything as well. If you want to check out a little bit more about the rules themselves, there's a good video that Black Magic Craft put together where they kind of worked through the basics. It takes about, the video is like 20-30 minutes, I think. They talk a little bit about the background of the game, setting up how to build your warbands, and then they obviously go into playing the game as well and run you through a sample turn, which is really nice. And yeah, as you said, Jerry, this has been in the works for quite a while. It's sort of been on the back burner, I guess, sort of coming to life over the last year or so. And now they've finally brought it out into the world for everyone to dive into and have fun with. I think there's been a great swathe of people creating fun and interesting skirmish games of late. For example, Reign of Hell, or Verotwood, for example, as well. Very good games that are in that kind of this same vein. Turn It 28, all that kind of stuff. So it was really nice to see this one coming to life and
I really
finally being available on Kickstarter.
It's like if Dante's Inferno was given a heavy metal makeover.
Yes.
Even down to the various factions within it all being sort of designed around one of the sort of the deadly sins and stuff like that. So you've a very unique look to it. And you don't have to get the STLs or the miniatures from here at all. It is agnostic. So if you already have a range of bizarre things kicking around or something you've spotted, you're going, that would make a fantastic X, Y, or Z demon type of thing. But, this is the sort of game you could roll it out into. Just so unique, I suppose.
Yeah. As really mess with your opponent and just 3D print out the Care Bears.
There's no reason why you couldn't.
Use them for wrath.
Yeah.
Because I imagine if I was a teddy bear with somebody tattooed my stomach, I would be all about the
anger. The actual game itself is really deadly as well. Like they've put a whole thing into the game about no, you're playing as weird creatures drawn from another realm, trying to harvest the souls of someone else. And of course, they want to try and tie in all those kind of metal vibes and everything as well. So, when you're fighting things, you will probably be ripping things to pieces and destroying stuff left, right, and center, which I think is really cool. And each of the factions is all entirely unique and plays with different ways and has different abilities and that kind of stuff as well. So I think they've done a really good job with this one, kind of bringing something together that is essentially you could buy everything you needed from the Kickstarter to play it with everything they've created, or you could literally just buy the rulebook and maybe the token set or something. Yeah. And just go to town with your own models and have fun with it. And because it's being played on such a small play space as well, I think it just means that you're kind of the world is your oyster. The echo is your oyster, I guess.
True.
And you can do whatever you want. So yeah.
Are we funded?
Oh, massively.
It is massively
funded. Yeah. I will say for anybody like me, while the hard plastic tokens and souls are great, it's worth noting there is no physical version for the models. They are STL only.
All digital. Yeah.
So if you're looking at these going, that'd be great. No. You'll either need to find yourself somebody with a 3D printer or...
Very nice friend with the 3D printer.
Hopefully there'll be merchant levels and people producing these after the fact. So
that'd be cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the hard plastic...
they're lovely. They're really nice.
Are really, really nice anyway. So, yeah, fantastic stuff. 20 days left for the Idols of Torment. And like we say, massively funded. So, and if you want that 12-inch vinyl, you have to get it from here. Everybody likes vinyl these days. Vinyl and cassette, it's the way of the future.
Just wait, 8-track will take over soon.
Get the pencils ready, and away you go. So, yeah.
Right, what is our last Kickstarter?
So the last one of these is one that, I mean, I got to say, I don't necessarily know anything much really about the Stormlight archives, but this one seems to have blown up, as you can see by the funding level.
Yeah.
So this is by Brotherwise Games and also Brandon Sanderson and his little team as well, who have a little team.
That's probably team. Why it's blowing up.
So this is the official set of Stormlight archive miniatures based on the award-winning book series. Folks at Brotherwise have done some nice stuff for Stormlight archives in the past. They did a card game for them, which was really cool and went down really nicely. And so they're now working on creating these miniatures. They break down into a variety of different sort of tiers, essentially. So you have 4 different sets of 32mm figures that come unpainted, that you can paint yourself and do whatever you want with them, use them in your skirmish games or whatever you fancy, role-playing games, etc. And then they are also sort of expanding things beyond that as well with monsters and all sorts of different things inside some of the sets, plus deluxe pre-painted figures in 75mm and also some 3D printable elements as well. So if you want some STL files, you can play around with those at the same time. And then capping things off at the very other end of the scale is also their big 1 to 10 scale, so sort of 12-inch dual statues and stuff that you can put on your desk and that kind of thing as well. I think the big thing for this is that a lot of people just really wanted miniatures for the Stormlight archives, and Brandon Sanderson, who likes money and being successful, decided to run this and has brought them to life. And these are essentially, as he puts it, his official vision of how the characters look. So if you're interested in having these, and as I say, using them in whatever game you fancy, I think it'd be well worth diving in to pick these up.
It'll be interesting to see. It's not, I've read obviously the last 2 books in the Wheel of Time series written by Brandon, and he's a really good writer for that genre and style, so much so that I'm considering going and reading his actual own books, not stuff that he's had to finish off for other people. And seeing these, because I knew nothing about, I knew nothing about him until it was like, this guy's going to finish this series that you've been reading for a couple of decades. I was like, okay, well, don't mess it up. But now seeing these, I'm struck by how similar it is in many respects to, if those are the designs, and I'm thinking, I can see why they got him to write The Wheel of Time, because it seems like the same sort of style, or stylistically it has a very similar idea behind some of the character design and development. I'm going, okay, this looks amazing. I'm all for this. And now it makes me really want more Wheel of Time stuff. So much so that I was thinking the other day when I was reading, because I'm rereading the series, and I'm going, oh, they should make a miniature game out of this. And now I'm seeing this, I'm going,
wow, this goes well, which it is.
There's some spectacular looking stuff in there.
The thing that's really nice about them, also I should say, Army Painter have come on board and designed the paint set that you see there, which is really nice. So they've done a set of, essentially themed, relabeled bottles, essentially, but for you to use painting your different models and that kind of stuff, which is really nice. So if you're someone who's never really dived into the hobby before, potentially, but you're picking these miniatures up because you like the Stormlight archives, then I think this is a really fun sort of entry point for you to dive in and have fun with. And I think, as I say, there's a lot of fantasy games out there that these could be used for. If you are intent on using them for gaming, you could use them in Frostgrave. You could use them in Lasting Tales. You could use them in role-playing games. You could do whatever the hell you want with them. You could stick them on the shelf. You could look at them when you're on the toilet. You could do whatever you want.
Don't sit too long.
Something has me curious there, Jerry. I quickly saw as you were scrolling down a part saying about composite materials.
In the stretch goals near the bottom of it. Scroll.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
I'm going to make you scroll all the way back to the bottom, just for me.
I hadn't left the bottom and I still can't see what it is. I'll tell you what, I'll bring the page up again and you can tell us where it is. You just say stop when you see composite materials.
Scroll up, in stretch goals. Above this.
While we're scrolling, I should say that the stretch goals have also introduced a bunch of additional characters and stuff like that. And there you go. So they're going to be using lovely fancy plastics.
Okay, sorry. I was just curious about that because I'd never really seen anyone mention anything like that before whenever it comes to miniatures.
Right. There we go.
Well, you know that ABS plastic that people don't like?
Yeah.
They're now not using that.
It's a thermoplastic. Thermoplastic is a chemical term, whereas HEPS is not thermoplastic, so it won't deform and reset afterwards. So it tells you nothing really. They're using plastic.
Thank you for the education.
You're welcome.
There we go.
Thermoplastics.
So I mean, if you want to dive onto a ridiculously funded Kickstarter for a book series that I've never read, then definitely go and check it out. See what you think. They're really nice models from what we've seen in the renders. So yeah.
And I imagine if he's throwing his name behind it, that there'll be a sufficient level of quality control on that as well, because you don't want to irritate a fantasy fan base. They can be quite aggressive. As we may have noticed in the past.
Just a little bit.
20 days left on that as well. I think that wraps us up for another week. If you want to be in with a chance to win that prize, don't forget you need to comment below. If you want to see whether or not you have been a winner in the past, then you need to go over to OnTableTop.com. Come over to here where it says more, and then you'll be able to go into the prize claim center and see whether or not you are a past winner, like these lucky people who got the copies of the book.
Look at that. Winners from YouTube.
When the
Spanish person got it as well. Yay!
Yeah, well,
Someone actually claimed the Spanish version.
I'm shocked how many people claim that Spanish version. It was really annoying to pick you out because I couldn't do it randomly. I had to list you all and then do it. It was very aggravating. You aggravate me. Be thankful it's only this one time. And if you better pick that up, by the way, because I'm not redrawing that. Saying. So anyway, we will be back on Sunday for the XLBS over on tabletop.com with our Cult of Games members. If you want to listen to us wax idiotic about our hobby and yours, you can do that in a more mellow setting. And we even have a 30-day free trial if you're not already a cultist. Otherwise, we shall return next Friday for more of the same. But until then, folks, take her easy.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.